The decline of empires. In this video, we're going to look at basic reasons that an empire might decline, as well as discuss the Roman Empire specifically. We're also going to take a closer look at the debate between people who think that Rome fell and people who think it transformed. Generally speaking, what are some causes for an empire to fall? Empires decline for multiple reasons, but almost all occurrences begin with a transfer of power. Often this is the result of an instability at the center of the empire, with a weakened ruler or central political fragmentation. A ruler or government can be weakened for a variety of reasons. It could be a political problem, such as court intrigue, or unaffected ruling system, or too much power in the hands of subjects of the emperor. It could also have to do with economic issues, like too little expansion or unwise investments that make the empire less wealthy. This central weakening gives outside powers, like surrounding empires, dissatisfied citizens, or nomadic invaders, a good opportunity to come in, destroy, conquer, or even take over. Some problems that often affect an already weak empire are invasions from outsiders, like nomadic tribes or neighboring empires' armies, revolts and civil wars from dissatisfied citizens, and arguments between powerful people such as generals or wealthy bureaucrats about who should have the most power. Usually the fall of an empire is the result of a number of these factors coming together. Here are a couple of examples. The Persian Empire was a huge and powerful empire, but it couldn't last forever. In Persia's case, the beginning of the end was with overly powerful peripheral rulers that were in charge of big provinces called satrapies. These rulers were in a good position to make themselves independent of the central power. In addition, the Persian ruler used a system of tolerant rule, where very few conformities were asked of the people, leaving them autonomous. Add this to citizen revolts and civil wars because of high taxes, and the empire couldn't sustain itself. Another huge empire was the Han Dynasty in China. It too experienced its share of problems before it fell. The initial weakness began when the emperor died and intrigue began among possible successors. This political strife led to the rise of several Reformation rebellions, which generals had to put down, in turn giving the generals a lot of their own power, which they could use to refuse orders from the current ruler, giving the emperor less and less power. As you can see from these two examples, political disintegration doesn't happen for only one reason. It's always a result of multiple different situations that work together to weaken the empire. In Rome's case, there were many factors involved.
The decline and the fall of the Western Roman Empire was caused by a vicious loop of problems that led to more problems. Barbarians are often credited for the fall of the Roman Empire because Odovaker, a Germanic tribesman, killed Romulus Augustulus, the last emperor of Western Rome. So are the barbarians responsible for the destruction of the Western Roman Empire? Well, without the plethora of issues in society that developed before the murder of Romulus Augustulus, Odovaker would not have succeeded. Most of Rome's troubles began in the 3rd century crisis.
It's considered a crisis because of a series of political, economic, and military issues. The period featured a series of bad emperors such as Commodus. Another reason was that Rome wasn't expanding enough at the time, and Rome needed to expand since they relied so heavily on slave labor from the citizens of their conquered lands. The Roman Empire also wasted money and valuables in Asian trade on useless items, hurting their economy even further. Rome's large population was also weakened during the crisis by a plague. Rome's abundance of people provided a lot of their economic safety, and with their decreased population, they were in a lot of trouble. As these issues weakened the empire, the barbarian threats at the borders became stronger. During this time, Diocletian tried to save the empire with various reforms. He took the military and made them stronger by creating smaller mobile legions that could relocate to wherever they were needed. He separated the government and the military so that the soldiers would stay loyal to the emperor and keep them from rioting to put their generals on the throne. Diocletian also hired barbarians for the army so that the Romans would have less to worry about in terms of protecting the land. He split the empire into west and east, which helped sustain the empire, now empires, for a short while. But because the Eastern Empire was so much wealthier and refused to help the struggling Western Empire, the Western Empire slowly deteriorated until the Eastern Empire was flourishing and the Western Empire basically ceased to exist.
in Rome, there are two opinions on what happened. The opinions are whether Rome fell or just transformed into something different. People who think it fell can be referred to as catastrophists, and transformationalists think it's transformed. We are more inclined to think that the western half of the Roman Empire fell, though admittedly it was gradual. In 476 AD, the Germanic king Odovaker killed the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, and this was the start of the very gradual decline and fall of the Roman Empire. We say that by 880 AD, the Western Empire had fallen. Once Odovaker took over, he was basically the new emperor. However, the barbarians who had been living in Rome soon took over new areas. At this point, the empire had not fallen, because in the eyes of the peasants, it was the same, and people still spoke Latin, the language of the western half of the empire. However, by 880 AD, the cities had fragmented and they fell apart. They were much smaller and less central. The population had gone downhill greatly. Therefore, trade went downhill, and at this point we don't think it is still possible to call this Rome. It's too small and weak without strong cities and people. So in that respect, the western half of Rome fell by 880 AD.
Even though the pattern of ancient Rome's decline resembles a fall, it can still be argued that Rome went through a major transformation and was never completely lost. Some aspects of Roman culture were still relevant and possibly were the roots of the Byzantine Empire, even after 476, when the empire supposedly fell. The idea of transformation applies mostly to the Eastern Empire. The Western Empire was much weaker, and many of the factors that led to its decline were not shared with the East. The Eastern Roman Empire was much richer and had a better economy. They had much better access to trade. The cities were doing better than the Western cities and were better protected from barbarians with a stronger army. The East had been helping the Western Empire fight off barbarians for years, so when they split and stopped providing for them, the Western Empire was much more vulnerable to outside forces. Therefore, the Eastern Empire was in a much better position to continue to influence other cultures after it dealt with adversity and other problems. The argument of transformation is based on the idea of late antiquity. It's used by historians to describe a time period between 250 and 750 AD, where many changes and transformations occurred throughout Europe. Changes in politics, culture, and religion, all of which make up the new empires that are seen during this time. This way of looking at this time period has been accepted in order to say that Rome transformed. During this transitional period, the Byzantine or Eastern Roman Empire's capital was changed from Rome to Byzantium. Christianity became the main religion as opposed to polytheistic religions, and Greek was mainly used for military purposes instead of Latin. Catastrophists would argue against the idea of late antiquity and said that these changes came from a quicker switch of control that rooted the ideas in each empire.
In conclusion, the decline of an empire is not the product of one, but of many factors. In Rome's case, these factors came together to all but demolish the original empire. While some might call this a transformation, we see it as a fall, since very little of the identity remained. Thanks for watching.